welcome to Sonic Talk number 309. I think I got the numbers right. So, yes, 309 it is. We're live this week again, but it's a Tuesday. So, if you're wondering what's happening tomorrow, there will be nothing in terms of a live show. It's today. I've tried to publicise it as much as I've been, but I sort of went online and realised, where's the audience? There should be people here now. And now I've fixed it, so there are. So, thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, we're post-MESSe. I can't do a live show tomorrow, and I'll tell you why a bit later on, because it's marginally interesting, and I'm sure you'll be giving me lots and lots of stick about it, because I should be ashamed, but I'm not. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, I want to say welcome to my guests. We've got in the studio, we have Mr. Dave Spears from GeForceSoftware.com. Thanks for joining us, Dave.
That's the first time. You're very welcome. Sorry, that's the first time I've heard SonicState.com theme tune in glorious surround sound.
Stereo.
Yeah. Normally it's down Skype and it's kind of...
Yeah.
Like
It's a little better.
It's good.
Yeah. No. Kent did a wonderful job on that. We might have to. I think we're gonna do some work on the theme tune, maybe for coming into the winter season. But more on that some other time, I think. Anyway, Dave, you came down here today driving your beautiful DS.
I brought my DS down. I've been hobnobbing with the stars. I called in to see your ex-employer, occasional employer.
Yep.
Mr. Gregory. Removed a couple of synths from his possession. He'll probably never see them again. And then I went to see somebody from Ultravox, which was great fun, who lives next door to Hugh Cornwell. So it's it's like Celebrity Street down here. Yeah, that's my DS.
And Skype just quit. Now, hold on 1 second. That'll be good. But the live stream is still working, honestly.
Ah, okay.
So, anyway, Dave, thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to have to do a little bit of administration to get this going again.
Yeah, you do that. I'll talk about driving at 50 miles an hour on the motorway for 2 hours to get here to have Skype crash. And then watch you run around in a minor panic. Nick he's been very, very calm. I came in and completely disrupted the entire flow of the operation. And he's been sort of listening to me over his shoulder waffle on about not an awful lot really, AKSs and Whiteface Odysseys and a VB. No, what's that string machine? 505. Yeah, Paraphonic 505. While he's been sort of beavering away, getting on with things. Even the occasional joke that I've had, such as,
was it just me?
I don't know.
Or did the whole thing go to hell?
Yeah, it all went down. But you're back. Are you?
We'll see.
I heard him, but then I didn't.
Okay.
Warhorse walks into a pub and the barman says, "Why the long film?"
Boom, boom.
That's the only one I can remember today. So One Direction, I don't know what tunes they did. Did they do that One Love? No, probably not.
I can't remember.
Everybody in the House of Love? No. Crazy Horses.
Quite nice. And I believe we got all of this in exchange for 2 concert tickets in Berlin.
Oh,
You're back.
well,
Are you back?
I'm back.
I'm here.
I'm back.
Am I back?
You're not, though.
Mark's back is horizontal.
I can see him on
Yeah, I
our
had to lie
monitor
down, sorry.
somewhere.
Better not go too far or you'll see my pants.
We like the fact that you're comfortable and that you feel comfortable enough to, go horizontal on the show.
Yeah,
What is that crutch next to your bed?
that's my walking crutch.
That's not a crutch. That's
Why
my
do you have a walking crutch?
Because they cut my foot off.
Get the
No,
fuck.
not off. Sorry, that sounds really dramatic.
Yeah, especially after yesterday. But yeah.
No, they
Ah.
cut my foot open.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah,
That was a
that's
Skype
bad.
crash. So if you've been watching on YouTube, which is a live stream, you'll have probably been wondering what's going on. At least they've been seeing this. Sorry about you users. Let's see if we can still get... Oh, yeah.
Mark,
of
is it
course.
expected to recover fully?
There's
yeah,
something
yeah,
else
sure.
I have to do now as well.
So it's an upgrade.
Well, we just went from they cut my foot off to what we expect to recover fully. I'm pretty happy.
No, I've got Achilles tendon version 2. They've put decompressed me, and they're going to be able to walk better.
Wow, interesting. Cool.
Yeah. Bionic Tinley.
Huh?
Has he gone again?
No, he's running around doing things. Chaos
Oh, dear.
mode. Actually, no.
Chaos pad.
He's secretly outside watching One Direction videos. Desperately trying to gen up so he can be hip when he goes there with the nipper. She goes, "What's this
you
one,
guys
Dad?" And he
haven't
goes,
heard that
"Oh, yeah, exactly. God, you're so old modern."
Oh, gosh, that was on the first album.
Yeah, of course it was. Right, so I've got some Skype people. That's it, and I've got me, and I've got Dave. I hope. Anyway, sorry about that. So let's continue. Hopefully, things will continue, and yeah. So we're back from MESSe. But first of all, we're also going to say hello to other guests on Skype because I was unable to do so before it crashed. So if I come here, I can, while you're talking, this is Mark Tinley. You can just see his head, but I'm going to adjust that. So Mark Tinley, who's over there in sunny
great.
Bedfordshire.
Never remember
Bedfordshire, yeah.
So, hold on.
Is that better?
No, it's all right. I'm going to do it.
4 years, you still can't keep track of where Mark lives.
Yeah, I know. It's bizarre, isn't it?
I'm going to move to Glastonbury soon.
Here we go.
Really
Look, there we go.
confusing.
That's Mark. Are you?
I'll move to Glastonbury and then I'll be able to come by the office randomly.
It's like every week it's completely new information. It's
That would be
hilarious.
awesome. Anyway, Mark Tinley, likebeing.com, who's sat there with a couple of crutches next to him, recuperating. You've had a bit of a leg, not amputation. What have they done to you?
No,
God.
I had problems with my Achilles tendon, so they decompressed one of them so far, and they're going to decompress the other one in a few weeks, which means they cut the thing open, take the tendon off, shave a massive lump of bone off the heel, and then nail the tendon back on again.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Which,
That sounds
you
like
know,
kind of medieval
It hurts,
torture.
but pain aren't going around the bloodstream, you know.
Oh, man, that doesn't sound like a whole bunch of fun.
But it is feeling a lot better now. The swelling's gone down, and it does feel like it's going to operate
Wow.
really well.
You know what? I'm sort of feeling like I wish I hadn't asked.
That's brilliant. It's just like every single grown man here just winced brilliantly, all in unison.
Ow. Ow, ow, ow. Anyway, Mark, I'm very pleased to see that you're recuperating and hopefully feeling better. When are you going to be back on your feet then? Have they got a kind of, have you got an ETA on
I'm
that?
back to see the specialist this Friday, and he's going to hopefully cut this bloody cast off and put a walking cast on.
Wow.
And then I think when I've got a walking cast, I'll be able to sort of rumble around a bit. I obviously won't, have full use of it, but at least I won't be hopping, which is just impossible.
Right, okay. Well, I hope you feel a lot better soon. And also, I want to say, Mark, of course, if you were listening last week, you did the interview with Warren Cucurullo and Nick Rhodes. So I want to thank you very much for that. That was great. And
Very well.
seemed to go down very well. Got a lot of likes, over 500 likes on Facebook. So you can get the record for the most liked podcast.
Wow.
I've been doing it for 4 years. No, longer, 6 years. And you produce an episode and you... outshine me.
Okay.
That's the last time I tell you.
Because I'm in it, Nick.
Anyway, and
It's any
also,
consolation.
I want to say hello to Mr. Rich Hilton here, who I'm going to adjust slightly. So if you bear with me, there will be a bit of adjustment. Rich Hilton, of course, is Nile Rodgers' studio guy, the man with the plan, and also plays in Chic on a regular basis. I think you're probably playing with Chic sometime quite soon, are you not, Rich?
Well, I've just finished playing with Chic quite a bit. So we're going to take a little bit of time now, and the next one I think is a few weeks away. But let's see, where were we? We were in New York playing with Sam Moore and Sting. That was pretty cool.
That's right. Somebody basically, who did I meet? I think it's the guys from Ableton who were following you, and they said, say hi.
Oh, cool.
I met at Music MESSe.
Oh, nice.
So
They were great.
Olav and the gang. So, yes. Anyway, well, Rich, thanks for joining us. I know this is unusual, a little unusual for a Tuesday, but we are here. And, of course, the reason we're here on Tuesday is because Music MESSe has just been. There was no live show last week. I've just got back from Music MESSe on Friday, where me and the team were doing what they do. Want to say thanks very much to all the guys on the team. That's Rob and Rich and Trevor and Ed, the new guy Ed, who did a spectacular job of recovering from a deep hangover on Friday morning. So, good sort of 20-something trade show action from Ed there. I'm very pleased that he's had that baptism of fire. But yeah, so it was kind of a big do and kind of fun. But you know what? I don't know if you've been able to see. Fortunately, all the technology work. Thanks very much to Non-Eric from Muse Talk, who shared his office space with us, so we were able to kind of work somewhere quiet and get the stuff done. So that's why the videos were coming thick and fast. And I guess the first one, I'm going to play this. This is not the video we did, but this is the video that Korg did. So you can probably guess what's coming. That looks like Volca beats, sorry. And there's also a Volca bass, which is what he's tweaking now. Good to hear healthy distortion and driven signals in a promotional video, but it adds to the vibe, I think. Some people were speculating this might in fact be Deadmau5. I don't know if that's the truth. And I think you'll get onto this in a minute. There's the right-hand side of the units is the Volca keys, which bizarrely enough is a bloody 3-voice. That's the middle one. Sorry about that. A 3-voice polysynth. Great video use of lights there. Right, I'm going to stop that there. Actually, I wonder if this well, anyway, Dave. I actually, when I posted this, because I saw them, I got into the show early on Wednesday morning because I was supposed to go to an Avid breakfast appointment that I'd actually got written down as the wrong day in the diary. So that's why I was there so early. So I got some photos up, and then I was able to get there very quickly and see that it was true. And there was a very, I think there was a bit of leakage beforehand, but we were out, so we didn't get a chance to see that. So this was kind of the news. I don't know, Dave. Dave Spears over here.
There was plenty of
spillage
spillage my end. I can tell you that. Quite a lot of leakage.
These things, basically, right. So we're talking 3 kind of. They're like monotribes on steroids, but only single purpose. So there's a drum, a bass, and a keys, and they are all going to be. Get this, about 120 quid, 150 euros. So I'm guessing $199 each, which is a bit of a mind-blowing concept. In terms of price, I mean, it seems like kind of they've really gone a bit crazy for that. What do you think?
I was blown away by this. Actually, I didn't watch much else because of this. I just kind of went... It's funny, as you know, we've been building studios and stuff, so we're nearly ready to start installing things, and I want to do this live jam thing, and we want to record it, and we want to put it out on the net and stuff like that. And the one thing that's missing in the equation, we got modulars, we got all sorts of mad stuff, but the one thing that's been missing is a drum machine. So then we started looking at things like 808s secondhand, and they go for just obscene amounts of money.
What, $3,000?
Yeah, £2,500 to £3,000. So that kind of put that out of the window, and then it was like, okay, so what else could we use, and blah blah blah. And it's been frustrating me actually. And then this video came along, and I immediately just hit Chris up on iChat and went, we're getting 4 of those each, basically, and that's just the drum machine. I think, like everybody else, I was quite blown away by these. They sound great.
They don't sound too bad. I mean, they're very... I mean, it's just an incredibly... it's a pretty bold move. I mean, obviously, Korg have been making analog, kind of little analog toy-type things for a while, so they've got the production sorted. And it's just, it just seems like a very cool thing. I'm guessing you, Mark, you're probably thinking, ooh, because you're a bit of an acid head when it comes to sort of beats and bass lines, right? 3 of those in a little case, you could just kind of like flip them open and do your thing wherever you feel like it.
Well, I've started purchasing photographic equipment, lighting rigs and all that sort of stuff in the hope that you'll send them to me to review.
Well, I can't promise you anything. I might be able to give you a secondary review, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yes, well, I don't think they're coming till the summer, mind.
I mean, Oh, I've got an echo.
Yeah, I fixed it. Sorry about that. It's my fault.
Oh, brilliant.
It should be gone.
The drum machine. What does that look like? I mean, you look at it and you just think it's just so 808 styled, isn't it? Completely. And the little mono bass synth, that's a 303. It's just so that style. And then to have that other little, the polyphonic kind of thing on there as well, and to have them all like linked together. But then you know, what I think's clever is that they've got it so that it will link via the WIST technology into your iPad and your iPhone. So if that all works in the way it's sort of expected to, it's just going to be unbelievably cool. And I really hope that drum sound comes back, because I like those small electronic drums and things. I think, you know, I want to hear lots of music driven like that by that.
Well, the thing Matt is asking in the chat room, is there much difference between the keys and the bass? They both have 3 oscillators, so you can stack things up. And I don't think you can play. You can play the bass as 3 separate lines, but you can't play chords on it. But the possibilities you start to think about it are very interesting. I know, Rich, I'm guessing as a sort of bona fide keyboard player, these probably don't excite you in terms of the physical keyboard aspect, but you can always plug a MIDI keyboard into it. I mean, little tiny. Imagine you can turn up with a sort of case, a whole bank, you know, say 6 of those 3-voice polysynths, and you could make some pretty interesting sounds out of that, I would have thought.
They're nice. Excuse me.
That's all right. Take a moment.
They're nice products. They look like fun. I liked your characterization, little analog toy things. That's what they are, and they're cool.
They kind of are, but I mean, and there's, you know, as usual, there's a huge debate as to whether or not they're toys, whether they can make anything meaningful. I mean, it's, you know, it's the usual thing. It's just,
well, you can make meaningful things with
toys. Of course you can. Of course you can.
It's not some sort of class distinction to me, but it is a rather accurate description of what these things are, and they're fun. They look like fun anyway. I haven't touched one. But
no, they are pretty nice. They've got that kind of is it the Tip Top Audio who do the touch? I think it is the touch. They've got these kind of touch-sensitive keys that are a bit like stylophones, but much more accurate than the Monotribe. They've got rid of that ribbon thing. They're actually separate keys, so they're much easier. So they're much easier to play. Not like they're not physical keys, but separate physical locations for each key, so that you can actually play a note on it more. You know, it's not. I don't
know if I like that idea better or not, but I have to play. I have to feel them as products, but it looks like cool stuff. I don't know. As has been pointed out, I was immediately drawn to the idea of the 303 stuff, and like everybody else, like thought of the history of little devices to do this kind of thing. And these are little devices. They look like, you know, I wonder if you could put one next to a tiny sizer, if it would look right.
Wow, yeah, I'm sure you use it as the master keyboard for your tiny size.
Yeah, right.
They don't.
Howie? Are you out there, Howie?
I did actually see Howard Scar at the Yuhi stand, because that's another thing that came up, which was pretty interesting. But perhaps more on that again later. But the thing about these things is, you know, they just stole the show yet again. I mean, Korg seem to have been able to steal the show kind of consistently for the last 4 trade shows, which is kind of with what people consider to be, you know, not especially featured pieces of equipment. You know, I mean, obviously NAMM, they did it with the MS-20 Mini, and, you know, this time there's these guys. I mean, that video on our site, it had like 30,000 views like within 24 hours. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So people are obviously really interested, but it does polarize opinion somewhat. But there was also the Korg Kross, which is spelt with a K, which although doesn't sound all that exciting, it's very similar to the Roland sort of VR09, which we did a Q&A thing with, in that it's like meat and potato synth stuff, but they do an 88 key version, which actually has quite a nice feel to it and is portable and battery powered and what have you, and that's kind of cool. But that's, again, slightly Korg are kind of shooting themselves, you know, in their ability to eclipse themselves by releasing 2 good products at the same time, one of which will just sort of wipe out everything else. So that's the only problem there. But there were some other good things, but this did rather blot out all the other things. Apart from, there's also the Bass Station 2, so it was quite synthy. Let's see, I might have a video for Bass Station 2. I think, because I filmed a couple of them. These are probably, Novation BS. There we go. That's probably not a great way to title a tile. So, but it did rather steal the thunder of, oops, that's the wrong one. Simon Halstead, behind the scenes, before MESSe starts. I think I've caught you at the Novation Bass Station 2, right?
Yeah, you've caught me with one of only 2 units that we have out here, and these are engineering samples, but they are representative of the final hardware unit, so they look exactly the same. The difference is that we don't have the final firmware on them yet, so I can't play you many of the sounds, but we'll have an idea of what it sounds like in a second.
Now, before the show started, we posted the news of that on the Monday before we went to MESSe, and that was a massive story. Everybody was just going mental for it. And that's the Bass Station 2, which again is it's a 2 oscillator and sub analog mono. And they say it is analog. I think there's digital control in there. 2-octave keyboard with aftertouch, funnily enough, which is always nice to see. I think I'm going to be... the only problem is about aftertouch, because I always feel like, people complain when I don't ask about it, and then when I do ask about it and it hasn't got it, there's a huge storm. I think I'm going to be the guy who says, has it got aftertouch? It's just, I feel almost hesitant to ask if something's got aftertouch, because I don't want to be that guy. I don't know. Dave, Bass Station, do you have a Bass Station?
No, I had one of the very first ones. That was the rack thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bass Station. They did a keyboard as well version.
Yeah. Actually, yes. Because at one point, Unders were talking about using 6 of those live. That was in the very, very, very early days. Yes, did muck about with that. Did like that. Didn't really get... It's funny, because I saw this, and like you say, the news kind of eclipsed everything else until the Korg stuff came along. But what was interesting is I do frequent some of the very analog forums. Analog forums, yeah. We'll refer to them as that from now on. And there was quite a lot of weird moaning and stuff going on about, it's a digitally generated square wave, and it's not this and it's not that. And actually, it's really funny, because as soon as the Korg stuff was announced, there was no mention of anything. That all kind of got left behind. And I thought, what was really fascinating is all of the kind of bitching and moaning got lost for these little gizmos of simplicity.
Yeah, something that's kind of actually got some features and some proper synthesis parameters.
Yeah.
People are... it's bizarre, isn't it? I mean, I suppose the thing that was a little bit problematic in terms of, timing of launches is that you can buy all 3 of the Korgs for the same price as, or a little bit less than the Bass Station 2, which is, I mean... I don't know whether that has any bearing, but that's a comparison that people have made. But it's quite... it did sound very interesting, the Bass Station. I didn't get a chance to listen to much of it because the firmware wasn't in there. That to kind of all the features weren't working. So I'm guessing there is digital control of a lot of that stuff. So the knobs weren't doing what... And they all transmit MIDI CC and what have you. But... people were are really excited about it. I mean, it used to be the sound of, it was William Orbit.
Yeah.
All of those kind of high arpeggio sort of into reverb and delays that were done in the 90s a lot of them were done on Bass Stations.
I had Bass Station. The guy I worked with, we had Bass Station. I think it was serial number 1. For a while. That was a review copy, and in fact I remember taking that up to this MIDI music show to give to the Underworld guys so that they could kind of play around with it to make a decision on whether they wanted to buy 6, because you could chain them together, couldn't you?
And the original also had MIDI CV and gate, which CV and gate, which this one doesn't, I'm guessing. I know, Rich, Bass Station, Novation Bass Station, did that feature in your world when they were out? Because I mean, I suppose you were still working in kind of fairly top-end facilities where you just grabbed the Moog instead, whereas we all had to reach for the Novation because that's all we could afford.
I came across them once in a while. Wow, am I distorting?
I don't know.
It sounds distorted in my ears. But anyway, I came across them once in a while. But I don't even recall whether I ever actually physically used one. At some point, some software showed up, a software-based station.
Yeah. They also had that, yeah.
And I don't think I ever used that either.
No,
but it sounded good when I heard it, and it's not because I wouldn't use it. It just I never had a chance to. It just never came up.
No, I understand. Well, I had a Super Bass Station, I think, which all I remember about that was that it.
Heard that about you.
The only thing I remember about that is it had a really bad patch right thing where you had to press things in a certain order, and if you did it wrong, you ended up recalling it very easily. So you just overwrite or wipe out what you'd done on it just over and over again. It was fairly tedious. I don't know, Mark, what were your thoughts? That you kind of thrilled at the thought of a bass station? It's nice that the kids are going to be able to get hold of one of these, right? Is it, or does it matter?
I did have a bass station, and I think I had a bass station rack as well. I had the rack and then the keyboard, and I can't remember which way round. Maybe I had the keyboard first and then changed to the rack because I wanted the audio input. But then I got some other really weird groove thing, this matte black kind of 303 emulator that had this filter that just kind of went way outside of that and went off and did all these really radical things. And it had all these little tiny micro micro pots inside. I took it apart and found all these pots inside it and was able to tweak it and make quite extreme sounds, I suppose.
Oh,
so
right, okay.
What was
I
that? Was
kinda
that the
used
analog
instead.
solutions?
I can't remember
Analog
for the life of
systems?
me what it was called.
Yeah.
It was a black. It was finished in that crackle finish that you get on like car radios, and then it had Moog style knobs on it. But if you opened it up, there was like all these extra filter controls inside it, like little micro pots. Which you just get a jeweler's screwdriver and start swinging those around, and it just went mental. I wish I could remember what it was called.
Did.
I'm sure it was called something like a groove something or another, but it might not have been that.
Oh, I don't know.
It wasn't the fat one, the PHATT. I'll see if I can remember what it was called.
Okay. But I
During
mean,
the course of
it's still the base station 2 is a really big deal. I mean, it must be 20 years since the last one came out. Is it 21 years?
yeah.
Oh, it's a fairly sort of major release, and they're really excited about it. So I mean, I think it's some jolly good stuff going on there. But synth-wise, there was also the MFB, which was really interesting. The no, I'm not remember what it's called now. It was called the Dominion. I think I've got it here actually. I can play something quickly. This was again sort of pretty analog world. This is.
I'm fine. Nice to see you. And,
He's always got his sunglasses on in the mornings.
And
Let's have a look. This is the
yes,
Dominion.
for sure.
I think he played
By
something.
envelope or
What did he play?
double F.
This looks really nice. It's very similar looking to
section.
the Kemet
The
Best
trick
stuff.
with this FM modulation
Fully
is the
featured 3
FM
oscillator type
is,
business going on.
Leap sync.
Can be triggered or can be controlled by envelope or LFO as well.
But the other thing they had,
We
which was
also
really cool, if I
implemented
come back
voices
here,
to
is
the
this drum
522,
machine. This is the
but we added a second kick from
Tanzberg.
the
I don't know how to pronounce
503.
that.
I do or
This
conga.
really does sound like an 808. A lot of control. If you're after a drum machine, this is kind of much further up the food chain than one of the
Oh.
Tanzbar. Yeah,
And
it's
have
got. I think it's
also
got 12 voices.
We can do 16
Anyway, I'm just throwing.
How much
in
was
there.
that drum machine?
€800. I think it was going to be. So, Rich, did you get a chance to kind of take a look at the output? Because I've got basically I've just got all the videos here that I can play. So, if there's anything that you said that you kind of saw from the show that you thought actually that was pretty cool or not, then I can throw it in there because it's like a request show.
Well, as I said, I'd been on the road for the last week and preparing for a guest concert, so I haven't been able to see very much beyond the initial Avid announcement.
Oh yes, of course, Pro Tools 11. That was a kind of it seemed like a pretty big deal. I mean, does it mean a lot to you? I mean,
It will.
because
It
of the,
will.
I guess the thing, because I spoke to David Caridi, I think is his name.
Tony Caridi.
Tony Caridi, that's right. And
My buddy. I like Tony.
he
He's
knows
good
a
guy.
nice guy, but it's really funny seeing. Well, not funny. Funny for me going over and then seeing the Americans coming over to MESSe, and they're all completely zoned out because they're kind of having the same effect that we get when we go to NAMM. And having to kind of come up with this, I don't know how the hell he managed to do it. He was very professional, actually, but there's a lot of
Tony's
stuff.
very good, and
Yeah.
he's been in this business a long time and worked for a lot of good companies. So Tony's great.
So-
and he lives near here, as a matter of fact.
Okay, so in terms of Pro Tools 11, what's the biggest kind of single? Is there a biggest single feature that you've gone, thank goodness, or is
Well,
it?
the whole thing was prophesized from top to bottom and foreseen, and there was vast amounts of money spent a little while ago to get the equipment that would justify the arrival of this day. So in our lives, so is it surprising? No, it's exactly what I knew it would be.
So I mean, one of the things that was kind of interesting was the a level of what was he talking? Efficiency that they've now been able to introduce into the audio engine. Because one thing he did say, apparently so, yeah. I mean, I don't know whether that's the case, but there were some neat things. One of the things that seemed quite neat is the use of dual buffers, so a record buffer and a playback buffer.
Yeah,
That's a neat idea.
I wonder if others.
Isn't that already in Logic?
Yeah, I wonder if others haven't been doing this forever.
Well, that's what I
Most
thought.
of
But
this is catch up.
It sounded like, wow, that's a really great idea. I'm sure nobody else could do that, but actually now you come to mention it, it's probably done everywhere already in the first.
And well, the whole thing about, you see, offline bounce, which one of the chatties just.
Hang on. Isn't that already in Logic?
The point is, it's all already in all of the other software, and the reason why is because they were married to TDM and RTAS in a 32-bit architecture. And these cards wouldn't allow non-real-time events, apparently. And this system around which it was based was designed in the 1980s as a phone switching system. So they had to shed themselves of that in order to bring about the same stuff that everybody else has been doing.
But it's a fairly major step for Pro Tools, because they have to rewrite essentially all of the underlying kind of audio engine by the sound of things.
They wrote the whole thing, from what I can tell. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it's a complete ground up rebuild of the audio engine and the software.
Wow.
I was very excited by the metering, but then I realised, because I'm an LE user, that I don't think that I would get that, would I?
I think you do. No, you do get the metering. You don't get the gain reduction metering. You get the different ballistics, but
not the additional gain.
Not the gain reduction metering.
Well, all those different kinds of metering looked incredibly useful, actually.
Yes, I agree. I like that, but the funny thing is, I'm really excited about this, and it's rather feature light in terms of how it's going to act. As long as it works better, everybody's going to be happy, and that's sort of how they're looking at it.
Yeah, I mean the big deal is obviously that now it's AAX all the way. You know, that this is the cutoff, isn't it? It's like from now on, it's kind of, this is all you can do. So.
Right, but they're very, I think, somewhat clever anyway about providing new purchasers with a license for Pro Tools 10 as well, so that people can continue to work on sessions that have RTAS and TDM plugins.
Yeah, that is a smart move.
And that you can run them side by side and swap sessions between them. So you can do, so if I want to work in Pro Tools 11, but I come up against a situation where I absolutely have to use Imposker 2, for example, I'm going to have to close that session, open it in Pro Tools 10, open up Imposker 2, do what I want to do, make it cool, print it, go back to Pro Tools 11, and continue working. Aren't I, Dave?
Yep.
But that's the thing. I mean, the AAX is a sort of another plugin format too far for a lot of people, I guess. I mean, I can't.
Well, that's why I brought it up, isn't it?
I mean, I can't think actually. Aside from
that's them calling.
Yeah, hold on.
What you mean? Imposker 2 is not going to be AAX?
Just 1 second, Dave. Over to you.
I've hung you out to dry.
Actually, it's quite interesting, and it will be quite funny. When was this announced? Was this like on the Wednesday or something? I think if it was the Wednesday, Thursday we started fielding the questions, and when I answered no, that is not. I mean, I'm not saying never say never. What I'm saying is that for the last 2 years we've dedicated our lives to a 64-bit port, which will be free to registered users. So at the end of that, and we are very, very close to the end of all of that, being faced with the idea of revisiting the past yet again to port to another new format is just something that fills all our engineers with, they'd rather go out and hang themselves publicly. So we want to do something new. So I've said, actually, having spent 2 years doing this, it's not on our radar at the moment. That's not to say never, but right now it doesn't form any part of our immediate plans. So that was on the Thursday, and by Friday the first hate mail email had come in, which was pretty heavy duty, which kind of bugged me for about 12 hours. But the truth is, you know, we knew about, everybody who wanted to know knew about AAX and Pro Tools 11, at least a year, 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if you went out and bought a plugin that was, let's say, Imposker 2, and it was RTAS, and there was no promise of an AAX, you do not have the right to then send me any hate mail if you did not ask me about my plans or our plans at that time. So that's got that off my chest. That said, it looked quite interesting, actually, from a kind of pro point of view, particularly the metering. I thought, you know, if you're working in video and film and stuff like that, the metering was very...
Yeah, actually, what they've also done is they've included the sort of video engine from whatever it is their video engine.
There's one other point that I really want to make, is that Sugar Bytes announced a VST to AAX wrapper. Now, I know from a million years ago, the VST to RTAS wrapper met all sorts of resistance from DigiDesign at the time. So it seemed to have been announced. I don't even know whether it was released. I have a feeling there may have been a few copies sold, and then all of a sudden it was withdrawn. So that's another thing I'm saying to people is, if you want our stuff as it exists working within AAX, you need to apply pressure on Avid to cooperate with Sugar Bytes. Does that come? Does that?
really.
Oh, sure.
Is that like a cop
That's
out?
the solution to it anyway,
Oh,
isn't it?
sure.
And the thing is, right, if I go and buy Pro
Somebody find
Tools
me a
and then I
windstorm.
upgrade every single one of my plugins to AAX, that's going to be more than my yearly salary, probably. So it's just not possible or doable. It's not going to happen.
No, I guess not. I mean, it all. I mean, every major
you know-
upgrade to Pro Tools always results in a kind of major, inconvenience, shall we say, financial or otherwise.
That was almost a cue for tumbleweed there, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was. It was just a silence. I think it looks interesting, but as you say, you know, there are a number of people who've just sort of gone, yeah, but this, as you say, Mark, you know, hasn't Logic been doing? And Logic is even more long in the tooth than Pro Tools. You know, Logic is even more behind in many ways than Pro Tools is in other areas. So, you know, it's like swings and roundabouts. And there was,
But as long as they retain compatibility, all the plugins I've bought will continue to work in it, won't they? So if Logic gets upgraded and it still supports AU plugins, no problem, right?
yeah, but doesn't Apple have some sort of a kind of roadmap for not supporting AU plugins in the future? So
Well, I
yeah,
don't know.
who
Well,
knows?
they had a roadmap for not supporting VST plugins, and I've probably got like hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of VST stuff kicking around, which barely gets used now, I suppose. So
Yeah.
I suppose it's all just part of the game, really, isn't it? I suppose, but it's just, I don't know. It just seems a tad uncaring of the manufacturers to not sort of think, you know, for them it's like, oh well, it's only a $600-700 purchase, but it's not really, is it? It's a lot, you know. It amounts to thousands and thousands of dollars when you upgrade everything and make sure that everything's running within it, and then your machine, and then your interfaces and everything else. So I mean, it just pushes Pro Tools 11 further up the professional curve, I suppose, is really ultimately what it's doing.
I could get them to spend the money.
Sorry?
I said I could get them to spend the money.
I guess it
Yeah,
depends.
yeah, I know.
There is more. I mean, obviously, Pro Tools 11 was one of the few,
remember
one of the many releases that came out of MESSe. But yeah, I mean, bound to be a controversial. Lots and lots of comments on that thread as well. Another popular item. Mark, was there anything specifically outside of the Korg Volca that caught your eye as well that I can slip into the program?
Two things caught my eye, like really caught my eye more than anything else. And the first one that I was just like, whoa, I've got to go shopping, was this mechanical guitar tuner that you bolt onto the top of your guitar, and then you strum your strings, and within a few seconds your guitar is perfectly in tune. But it does alternate tunings as well. So I can just I just tell it I want this and just strum.
Oh yeah, it's attached to the machine. Is it the machine head, isn't it?
I've been doing it for 30 odd years, and I'm rubbish at it. I can never get the damn thing to sound in tune or in tune with itself. So I don't care how much it costs. That thing I'm going to buy, definitely.
Okay, is that the Gibson one that's retrofit? I can't remember. That's one thing I haven't got a video
retrofit
for.
thing, yeah, and I don't remember what it's called. It's in your news feed.
Okay, it's probably one of the things I didn't deal with. So I've only got the kind of music tech stuff really here.
And then the second thing,
yeah,
is the USB 3 interface from RME. Is it?
Yeah.
That looks very.
That's
exciting.
got MADI as well, hasn't it? That's
yes.
Kind
Oh
of,
Exactly.
yeah?
yeah.
I didn't see
So
that.
it's a very simple interface. It has 2 ins and 2 outs, and it plugs into USB 3, and then it's got 3 channels of MADI, so it's got a shitload of expandability. Oh,
yeah, that's all right.
load of
A beep.
expandability. Sorry.
Yeah, that sounded pretty good. I don't know what the state of USB 3 is. I mean, I haven't got anything with it on. I suppose my laptop's
I do.
probably just you do. Have you been running any USB 3 stuff on it?
I have.
How
Well,
does
not audio, but my Time Machine drive is USB 3.
Ah, okay.
And it is
I've got
it's remarkably fast compared to USB 2.
I've got USB 3 on my Mac Mini, and it'll move a couple of terabytes of data in like a few hours, really. Whereas before, if I plugged USB 2 in and tried to copy a 2 terabyte drive, I'd probably be waiting about 3 days. So it's very fast, yeah.
Yeah, Native VS in the chat room says USB 3 hard disk for loading samples works great.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah,
it
I'm
would.
sure
They're
it would.
fast. It's a fast interface. It's a noticeable difference.
A very respected audio engineer said to me, I predict that this interface will be the death of Firewire.
Maybe so, yeah.
What, USB 3?
Mm-hmm.
And Firewire is already just barely kicking anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been, almost a year with a laptop that doesn't have it.
Well,
How do you
Firewire
manage
800
it?
is only,
You know?
Firewire 800's, hardly faster than USB 2, really, isn't it? USB 2 sort of lands between 400 and 800, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
So I mean, but that's not to say that Thunderbolt's not going to, if they bring out Thunderbolt drives, then
I've got one of those too.
yeah,
Have you?
Next to me.
I fancy one. The only thing about Thunderbolt drives is the cables cost about as much as an external drive. There we go. Rich is sporting his over here, as I've said before. Okay, anything else? Dave, did you see anything else that
Bonafide Thunderbolt cable right there.
You got anything else that you wanted to have a look at? One of the things that I found was particularly interesting, if I might just jump in there, was the CME, not the CME stuff, the Copperland stuff.
Oh yeah.
And this, Copperland is something that we've been following for a while. It's a transport for moving audio and control of MIDI packets and all sorts of other packets around the place. But the thing that was quite interesting, they actually had, if I show this, they had a keyboard on display from CME who are making one, so there is actually going to be a piece of hardware with this on board. If I just give you that a sec, we caught up with Eric, who I've been interviewing at these events for probably 3 or 4 years.
Indeed.
The thing that's particularly interesting is if I go to about here, I think it starts off.
Itself. So I have no special files in here. The keyboard is clueless about what's around, but grabs it and gets it in real time as soon as it's connected.
So bi-directional kind of setup? Yeah.
Yes, automatically, yes. By communication intelligently in the background, all automatically. And so, one last feature I really want to let you see is using the panel mode where any knob may control totally independently anything anywhere in the network. So, for example, I will make some assignments. You see, I have different modes. I will use the browse mode of that one, and I will choose something which is not an instrument, and in this case I will go into my audio recording board, you see, and I will go into the recording mixer, and then I will select the level, and that's it. And now, when I play this, I change the level of the board up there, which is feeding back the value in dBs with precision, you see. And every knob may go to anything, anywhere, totally independently.
Now this is the killer, because this is the resolution of these controller keyboards now becomes
all together. They go somewhere through
a bit more interesting.
virtual cables,
16-bit
and
control
and so on.
of whatever you want.
Where's the hub of this? What's the kind of...
I'll stop that there because I'm not actually. He didn't get to the bit that I was saying. So basically, but what happens now is all of those. So the resolution of those knobs is 16-bit plus. So that means you could be controlling plug-in parameters at 16-bit resolution. So MIDI resolution is kind of got, so we're talking sort of what MIDI 2.0 is kind of hoping for. So if one of these controller keyboards is plugged in, I mean, obviously it will send MIDI values as well, but you could communicate directly with, say, the filter on, an Imposca or whatever at very high resolution. So the interpolation becomes a no-brainer. You don't need to have any interpolation or very little for that. And that sort of stuff sounds quite exciting for accessing tweakability. Does that kind of make any difference to you, Dave?
It's really interesting. I know we've been looking at this whole Copperland thing for a while, but that's why I really like coming down here and having a chinwag and being on and contributing to this show or listening on this show, because these things get eclipsed by things like the little mini Korg things. So I can come down here and have a chinwag, and you can put it all into perspective and tell me how great it is, and then I can go, we'll try and have a go at maybe something to do with that. Or,
yeah, I mean,
fascinating.
As Native VS says in the chat room, so also it means we're going to have very high resolution control of faders, for instance, in DAWs and that kind of thing. So those are the sort of things that are going to be interesting, or pans or whatever. So you've got much tighter control. I mean, that's got to be something that's got to have a real impact if it becomes on board. And I think that this is now going to be, hopefully, now that somebody's actually making something and people are going, because one thing that Eric said is, now there's a keyboard here with a Copperland sticker on it and it's made by somebody. the manufacturers are starting to go, oh, actually, yeah, maybe we should get into this. I mean, Rich, do you think that's going to take the world of control into a whole new level, surely? Is that something that you'd like to be able to get from your controllers?
I guess. I didn't see the video, so I don't know what we're really talking about. But if you're saying higher resolution control, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it means that a copper LAN enabled control device will be able to output much higher resolution control data that then, in whatever format that the software that is receiving it wants it in.
Part of me is always happy to see that happen, and I really do hope it does. And the other part of me thinks that's not what's missing from the music business.
Well, yeah, I take your point there. Maybe they'll fix that too, whatever it is that's missing.
Right. And they don't necessarily have to fix it, not these guys. And I do admire what they're doing, and I like the idea of higher resolution control of things in general, but it's not... I'm not turning the knob on my Imp 2 controller and going, damn, listen to that MIDI stepping.
Well, no, true, but I guess...
there's a downside to this as well, isn't there?
I have to admit, I have to say something at this point, and that is I watched the Stephen Slate video, and I thought his thing was kind of interesting, but I wasn't massively blown away by it. It just seemed like somebody playing around with a touchscreen monitor with a little bit of a macro to sort of control Pro Tools. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, it's essentially
but I might
what it
be
is.
missing something. But when he showed me that you can click this button, I won't do his accent actually because I probably can't even come close to doing it. When he showed me you can click this button and you can change the resolution of the fader from 0 to minus 60 dB so that the entire movement of the fader only makes a difference of a whole dB over the whole range, I just thought, why would you need that? I don't understand why you would need that fine. I don't want to turn something up by half a dB or down by half a dB and then sit there riding it. It's like I'd just put a compressor on it and it's sorted, right?
Somebody explained to me
what's wrong with the music industry. I'm losing some of the subtle nuances, but half a dB on the length of I mean, come on, what's that for?
Pass.
Mischief.
Am I supposed to really want to operate a console paradigm on a piece of glass more than I want to mix with a mouse?
Yes, Rich, you are, I believe. If
I
you're...
don't know. I think I could get into that from playing the iPad.
I'm going to have to go back and relearn this whole thing.
Music controllers on the iPad, I might be able to get the concept of doing it on glass, but it's more the idea that I would want to ride a vocal up and down by half a dB that got to me, because everything's so compressed anyway. I'm never going to hear it.
No, possibly not. I mean, I do recall moving things by, a dB in a mix before it hit the compressor and going, oh, yeah, that makes quite a difference. It depends what the level is that you are turning up or down of, I suppose.
If I want a big flat reflective surface between me and my speakers, it's going to have actual faders on it.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point.
Period. It's not going to be somebody's coffee table turned at a 45-degree angle.
That's why I like this copper LAN idea, because if you've got all of these things that have got copper LAN on it and they're all networked up, you've got the ultimate potential fight, haven't you, between, let's say, a guitarist or a keyboard player on stage who's got access to that front of house desk, who can turn himself up, who can add all the effects, who can override the front of house engineer. The potential for catastrophe and fights is massive here.
Well, you can already do that sort of stuff with the Personas things, where you get access, but they're like security groups, so you only get to, mess with your own sends and your own kind of post, monitoring signals or what have you. And it's the same. The other stuff that I saw in the flesh was the Behringer X32, the compact stuff, and it started to see how that would work in an installation or whatever. And that was really interesting too. But yeah.
The other place you could go with copper LAN and a door, of course, is you could set all of your keyboards, which all have knobs on, to control your mix. So instead of having a mixing desk in the room at all, or instead of having to just rely on the mouse, you just create meaningful controllers to you that you can control your mix with, and then with high resolution. That would be something that'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, there's and there are lots of applications for this, and I think again there was the Elysium modules which have a copper LAN enabled. They do copper LAN enabled kind of MIDI CV and gate kind of a bit like the Silent Way stuff, but it comes over the copper LAN transport, which can be moved long distances over Cat5. And there was another very interesting machine that they did, which was like a CV, just a control signal or audio patch bay, which again is control. And that's, you know, all sorts of very interesting. I mean, that was the one thing that we did see when we went to the Alex 4 booth, who's the new European distributor for Buchla and Doepfer and various. He's sort of focusing. This is the Schneider's Barrera guy, top chap, and he's created a kind of European distribution system so that, as he was putting it, you know, these kind of guys like Schweiman and Doepfer, who are getting towards their 60s and don't really want to be unloading kind of modules from the factory in the rain on a Friday night and then having to test them all. They're going to take all of that stuff away and say, here's 10 modules for you to, you know, randomly selected to check or what have you. And he's basically created this huge sort of network. And it sounds like a really good idea, but also what he's saying is they're bringing up lots, you know, they're trying to bring up more younger people who are making this stuff so that it's just a continual feed. It's absolutely brilliant. And if you get a chance to watch that, Andreas Schneider, it's the Alex 4 video, and it's just interesting news. And also they are for the first time, the new Buchla range can now be serviced in Europe, so you don't have to send it back to the States. So, you know, that's kind of quite a big deal in terms of synth news. And then, you know, I guess the takeaway from MESSe for me was there was quite a lot of synthy stuff, you know, and it felt like it almost eclipsed a lot of the other side of things, which was quite, you know, quite interesting. It's like going back to, as we said, some people were saying it's like Music MESSe 1984.
Without the presets.
Without the presets.
It's funny. It's funny you should say that, because the Korg Volca, the demo of that sounded just a little bit like Fashion's Move On to me. And I ended up going and watching like a whole load of videos from 1982, 83, 84. And when I watched the Fashion one, I think I watched Fashion playing Move On live on the Old Grey Whistle test. And that guy with the dreads is surrounded by this huge bank of synthesizers and everything, and it's like a dong 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 dong. And I'm thinking, like, wow, I can do that like with an iPad or like with one of those tiny little boxes now.
Yeah.
And in a way, doesn't that kind of take away something that was cool about having too many synths on stage and being surrounded by them? Because that was.
Yeah, it doesn't look quite so good. Although if you were surrounded by iPads, it would might look kind of cool these days.
Well, it could look, yeah.
It's a pretty, you know, it's a pretty major status symbol. A couple of other things to mention. Obviously, Nordlead 4. We got a first look of that. Went in on the Tuesday. That sounded pretty cool. And one thing that I really liked about it, there was if you went to nordlead4.com. They had a kind of ambient loop playing until the announcement was made, and that was all made on the Nordlead 4, and it sounded really lovely, actually, I have to say. That it did sound good. Although, once again, no aftertouch on a flagship polysynth. Seems a little bit of an oversight.
You can put your own waveforms in that synth, can't you?
A Nordlead 4, I'm not so sure about that. He didn't mention that at the time, so I'm not sure if that's the case.
Oh, was it the other Nord that's just come out?
Yeah, the piano ones.
The performance one.
Yeah, I would think that would be the case. What else did we see there? That was cool. Did you get a chance to check out the Yuhi Satin tape emulation? That was pretty nice, and that's a tape emulator that's got. Let me see if I can quickly put it up because I'm gonna have to wrap it up fairly soon. Let's see if I can play this quickly.
A studio machine.
It's basically tape emulation where you can get under the hood and do all the kind of bias and the kind of stuff that you used to need a special jeweler's screwdriver to set the machine up in certain ways. So you can do that in software on this machine if you so desire. But it's also got some really cool features where you can run it as a tape delay and a flanger. And there was one of the flanger modes that was just really cool, actually, that's got like a one shot. So you get one, you can set one bar of a cycle. Let's see
on my working machine, it's not the regular.
I don't know if I've got
the right tempo settings.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So it's got a one trigger mode.
Oh, there we fast fade
so
out.
you can do with time divisions and get it.
Yeah, of course. You can sync it to tempo.
Anyway, I'm not sure if that was all that thrilling, but it did sound really, really good. Are you feeling the blues there, Rich?
Absolutely.
But that was good, and that's actually where I saw Howard Scarr was on there. He spent the entire time like this in front of his laptop, just sort of programming patches on Zebra as far as I can tell. It's just work. You know, it was
it's
just
easier
all...
than talking to you. Well,
Yeah, what else was there? I'm just trying to find if there's any other things that really caught my eye. And I'm kind of... Oh, yeah, the SM Pro Audio 500 series. Now, they've started to expand on that range, and that's looking really nice, actually. There's one thing that they've got. There's a variable phase module, so you can tune the phase of whatever your mic, which, you know, you can do on certain consoles, but it's not all you can do in plugins, I guess. There's also the variable, what's it called? The variable impedance mic pre, which that was kind of cool. I don't know if that you could do that on a few things. Rich, what would be the kind of application for something like that? Because you can quite radically change the tone of a mic by tweaking the impedance, right?
Well, it's funny you should mention it, because I just got a radial DI called PZDI, which has variable impedance on the input, and it's intended for for piezo pickups. But I'm looking forward to using it on a vast array of guitar tones that he presents me with, particularly with these hollow body guitars and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm just about to start exploring this variable input impedance lifestyle.
Well, no, I'd be interested to know what you think about that, and I'm really keen to try the variable impedance SM Pro Audio mic pre's because of the, you know, it'll drive ribbons as well. But what he was just saying is what's cool about it is you can actually make it wrong, so it makes the character of the mic sound completely different to what it is. So you almost get like a tilt EQ or bias to the sound of it, but there's also the kind of sweet spot where it sounds as good as it possibly can, which that's particularly with microphones, I'm guessing that's going to be quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, I had one of these years ago. Avalon had variable impedance on their mic pre.
Yeah. Okay. What else have we got? I can't think of much. Oh, the soft tube. Actually, did you see this? The channel. Yeah. That was kind of cool. I'll play that quickly because I'm going to have to go in a second. This was pretty cool. This is the soft tube. I think it's called Console.
Hi guys, I'm Nicholas from Softtube, and we have a nice new thing here for you. It's Softtube's first hardware.
Console 1.
Console 1. And what we've done is taken a large format console, taken the workflow from that, put that into affordable, nice, hands-on unit that works with every DAW.
It's like a channel strip, right?
It's like a channel strip, but if you take a look at the screen here, you see all the different channels down here at the bottom. So with this unit, you can control the snare, the toms, the hi-hat, anything you want. Just go to the EQ, add some high gain on the hi-hats, work with the overheads, you can group them, you can duplicate tracks, you can do...
Now that seems to me like a really blindingly obvious, but so far unexplored piece of territory. And I know Softtube makes some really kind of quite good plugins. It's an expensive piece of kit, but the idea that you can have like a channel strip, you just hit the button, I'm on channel 30. So you've essentially got, you know, what you would get on a large format console in front of you. Seems like, if you haven't got obviously a large format console in front of you, seems like quite a good idea. I don't know, Rich, are you skeptical, or does this sound like an interesting idea?
It sounds like a really interesting idea. I'd like to see it. I didn't, as I said, I don't see the videos as you're showing them.
Oh,
so
really? So you're not getting the video back? I'm sorry about that. That's but essentially, it's kind of like a USB controller. It's got it is quite expensive. It's like €800. But it's got 400 low power LEDs in it. It's got really beautiful metering. It's got these kind of the scaling around all the pots. But the idea is it runs like a master plugin, which then allows you to select individual channels in your mix. So you just kind of, it's got basically a channel count across the entire top of it. So you've got 32 buttons. So you can say, I want to work on channel 24, which might be the snare or whatever. And then you're immediately tweaking it. And it works within whatever DAW you're in. And at the moment, they've got like a 4K pack, which I'm guessing is an SSL type channel strip. But they're going to do others, so you can kind of buy plugins that will have other flavors and then control it from this control. And it actually, although it sounds very expensive, I think it's a beautifully made thing, and it could really enhance the workflow. I don't know, Mark, is that sort of thing that thrills you?
Sorry.
Asleep. Sorry about that.
The thing is, these things always thrill me, and they look really impressive when you invite girls into your studio and go, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And you sit them down in front of it, and they go, "Wow, there's a lot of knobs on that. What do they all do?" And then you've got a starting point for like a really good conversation, right? Or not, maybe. But the thing is, of all those things that I've ever bought, even the little diddy ones, what happens with me is I always end up sitting in front of the screen just tweaking stuff with the mouse, and I might throw something off on a keyboard controller from time to time if I really want to, like, you know, get kind of tactile, but they just sit there and they never get used. So I don't know how I would integrate it into my mindset.
Well, it only works with the soft
and not having it, you know.
It only works with the soft tube stuff because that's what it's designed to do. I'm sure it would throw out MIDI CC that you could do elsewhere, but the idea is the sort of.
Even for that, any of that, none of it.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to have to call it.
I didn't see the picture actually. Maybe it wasn't what I was thinking it was.
I don't know. You'll have to have a check. You can always see all of this stuff on the website. We've got last counted, it's 4 hours and 39 minutes of videos from Music MESSe. So if you've got a half day spare and you fancy catching up and see what the latest music technology is, including interviews with people like we did an interview with Fumio Maeda, who's one of the co-inventors of the MS-20. That was pretty good. I enjoyed talking to him, who gave me this rather smashing little.
The thing that I was talking about, Nick, was called Tronicle.
Oh, I don't know.
Tronicle tuning technology, and it's in your MESSe guitar section.
Okay, thank you. This is the book he gave me, which is a replication of the original Korg How to Program, and he signed it for me as well. So I feel kind of quite honoured that it's one of those nice things. But we have to say goodbye because the reason the show was today is because I'm taking my daughter to see One Direction tomorrow at the Birmingham NEC, which is for those of you who don't know, is about as kind of arch teeny pop as you can get. So we'll have to see how that works. But I want to say thank you for everybody to coming. So, Mark Tinley, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that, considering you're laid up and all. So,
I'm not going anywhere.
No, maybe we'll see you next time. So, hopefully, next time we'll be back to Wednesday, our usual slot.
Excellent. Okay.
And also, I want to say thank you very much to Rich Hilton for joining us on this unusual day. It's our first ever Tuesday podcast, I think. It's a first for us.
It's unusual indeed.
A Tuesday riff. Anyway, thanks,
Rich. In the show.
So Rich will be popping off to probably do something in a major studio, wax a hottie, play the blues.
Wax a hottie, and then I'll make a record.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Rich. And also Mr. Dave Spears, G4 Software, who's with me in the studio here. Thanks for coming down. Been a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. No, it's been good.
And that's it for Sonic Talk number 309. Thanks very much for watching.